Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, this brewery is quite an interesting one. They've been around for a good little while, but it's only within the last few years that their beers have really started to get a bit more noticed. There was a change in ownership and things are going very, very well for them now. And yeah, I've had a couple of sour beers from these guys which were very nice, but this time we're going to try something very different, and it's a style that I very much enjoy, and this is supposed to be a very nice example of it. So yeah, needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Stockholm, the Swedish capital, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. So this particular beer is simply called Barley Wine. It comes in at 14% ABV, and I'm not sure exactly when this one was released. Now, the reason I bought this one was because I'd been trying a few of the Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri beers. I had been very, very impressed with them. So I just put the name in on Systembolaget, and this is one that came up. And yeah, I love a good barley wine, so here we are with this one. From what I understand, Mariatorgets have released a few different barley wines. Some of them have different numbers and things like this, but just to be clear, this one is, as I say, simply called barley wine with a space in the middle, and it's 14%. So yeah, if you want to find it on Untappd and things, that's the one that you want. But yeah, let's crack on with this beer then and see how we go. Our first barley wine from Mariatorgets. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri before, and we will definitely add more to that list in the fairly near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go into the homepage, use the search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like in there. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things, and you can check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. So, Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Stockholm, and the company was founded back in 2011, and it was run for the most part by Niels and Alan Montan, but there were various other owners who came in and out at different points in time, and under their ownership, the brewery only produced a pale ale on a very small scale. But in 2017, there was a change in ownership, and the brewery was taken over by Mats Stjernsteg along with his sons Simon and Joel. So when they took over the brewery, it was still very small and they were brewing 50-litre batches, but Simon and Joel had been home brewing since 2012 as a hobby, and then the opportunity came to take over this brewery for a very cheap price, and so they decided to go for it and do it. But the brewery itself is only 45 square metres, and the capacity that these guys have at maximum is about 100 hectolitres of beer per year, although they do have about 50 hectolitres of barrel aging capacity as well. But in the last year or two, they've been developing quite a few different recipes, working on sour beers and some IPAs as well, but they have been producing some bigger beers like this, like imperial stouts, old ales, barley wines and stuff like that too. But these beers have earned a lot of praise actually. This is a brewery who are really regarded as very kind of up and coming, but very solid already in Swedish craft beer circles, so they are one that I've been keeping an eye on over the last little while. But yeah, as of April 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced over 100 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and they will no doubt increase that number over the coming years as well. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. I don't know if these guys have plans to open up a tap room or some point in the future, or if they open up the brewery a few times a month or whatever, but yeah, a very, very nice little brewery who are doing some very good stuff at the moment. So if you get the chance to check out some of their beers, I do recommend that you do. And if you want something, if you're watching from outside of Sweden and you want something particularly Swedish, have a go at the Hjortron. That was a lovely cloudberry sour beer that we did. Really enjoyed that one. But yeah, let's have a look at this beer itself and see what it's all about. If you want to learn more about these guys, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at this beer itself. So you can see this one is a 330ml can. I want to say that I paid 70 or 80 Swedish krona for this. I think 80 is a bit more reasonable considering what this beer is, so we'll go with that. So 80 Swedish krona is about €8, somewhere in the region of like £7 sterling, maybe about, you know, $8.50, $9.50 American, depending on your exchange rate. But there you can see the Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri text at the top there, plain silver top on the can. And yeah, as I said, this one comes in at 14% ABV. The other thing to point out about this beer is that it says on the Untappd page, the wort in this one was boiled for over a day. So this should be a nice, highly caramelised barley wine actually. And I do believe the can is a bit over a year old, and you do want a little bit of age on these things too. So it should be in very nice condition. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. The barley wine, 14% from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri in Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's do this. So there we go. Not a lot of smoke on the opening, but here we are. Oh, this looks very nice. Look at that. How syrupy that thing is as it pours. So, there we go. Yeah. Anyway. So, you can see this beer looks pretty damn nice. Not a lot of head on this one. You can see there's just a nice kind of foamy, light beigey ring around the edge of the glass. A few little islands of bubbles in the middle. But, yeah, the way this one goes together is very, very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass. You can see a few little ones going up toward the surface of the liquid there. Overall, it does look very, very nice. Yeah. In terms of the colour of this beer, it looks great. If we shine the light through this one, it's definitely like a very, very dark sort of ebony rosewood type colour. This one, almost like could we say like teak, like a dark sort of teak colour? Yeah. So I always like comparing, you know, barley wines and doppelbocks and scotches, the brown beers, just to different types of woods. You know, I've got really into that with my guitars and things. But yeah, it's like a very deep, dark sort of chestnutty, teak, mahogany, rosewood type colour that you're getting out of this one. It has got a little bit of that almost Coca-Cola coloured edge to it when you shine the light through it, so you can just see the light coming through this one. But yeah, it has a lovely colour to it, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour of your beer as well. When it comes to barley wines, you know, you can affect the colour a little bit with the different barrels and things that you use. But yeah, that's just something else. But it's quite difficult to do that, to be honest with you. And it depends on your malt base, as I say, and how light your beer is in terms of the colour. So yeah, let's. I think we don't need to say anything else about the appearance of this one. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, as we said, and we've covered the colour and things like that. Most of the colour in this one will be down to the type of malts, and also the darkness of that will be down to the length of the wort boil, which, as they say, is over a day. It didn't say exactly how many hours, but over a day. Anyway, yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then, and see what it's all about. Oh, geez. I'm going to say straight away, aroma of this one is beautiful. As you'll know if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I love these big, brown, sugary beers. And I love a good for me, Scotch ales, doppelbocks, quadruples, barley wines. I love these types of beers. I like most kinds of beer, to be honest with you, but these ones are the ones that really just, you know, tick the boxes for me. But yeah, this is lovely. I think we're getting this just at a very good age, actually. Yeah, it gives you everything you'd want from the style. You've got a bit of fruitiness in there, you've got some of the woodiness, and lots of big oily brown sugars. You still have a little bit of the hoppy character as well. I'm just going to say it's a beautiful, beautiful smelling beer. Yeah, it feels like a wee while since I've had a barley wine, but I think in reality it probably wasn't that long ago. I honestly can't remember, to be honest. I don't think we had any when I was in Japan actually, but still, it's awesome anyway. That's the main thing. Yeah, this smells absolutely lovely. So, where do we start with this one then? On the in terms of the backbone of this beer, now this one isn't barrel aged, although if they did barrel age this, it'd be an absolute monster, I'm sure. Put this on some cognac barrels, it would be beautiful. But yeah, in terms of the backbone of this beer, it does have a little bit of an almost woody character to it, and you do get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing in there. But it's kind of like a highly caramelized, it's like a sort of highly caramelized, highly kind of, high brown sugar type quality that you get out of this one. Yeah, aroma wise, this is absolutely lovely, I have to say. So yeah, you've got the kind of woody nature in there, a little bit of the bread crust. The sweet kind of, you've got the big oily cakey sort of things, the big oily kind of cakey sort of things in there as well. Like I say, it's like the kind of brown sugary stuff that gets stuck to the side of the baking tray. It's kind of like that you get in this one. So you have this like brown sugary cakey type note out of the beer. You've got a little bit of a kind of almost tobacco-y type aroma in there. I've never smoked in my life, but we used to use tobacco a lot in the labs. And it just had this fruity, the smell of tobacco I think is lovely actually, but you do get a little bit of this almost tobacco-y note out of this beer. There's definitely a few nutty kind of notes in there as well, like a little bit of a pecan-y or almond sort of thing. And on top of that, there's a little bit, you do get a little touch of like a kind of brown bready character to the beer as well. So you've got that big oily kind of cakey sort of thing, wholemeal brown bready character to it as well, and then above that you get the brown sugary notes. So yeah, you've got this big leathery brown sugary character to this one, which is great. So yeah, big smooth leathery brown sugary notes in there, and above that you can smell the sweeter notes. So you get a sweet caramel. There's a little bit of treacle and molasses to this one, but I would say that the brown sugars that you get in this beer are actually quite bright. It's got a little bit of a kind of toffee, fudgy note to it as well. But you can certainly smell that this beer is a big, boozy beast, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, aroma-wise, this one is absolutely lovely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, aroma-wise, this is absolutely great. Yeah, it's gives you everything you would want from a barley wine, like I said. In terms of the malty side of things, to be honest, I think that's everything we kind of need to say about it. On the hoppy side of the beer, there are the remnants. Obviously with a barley wine, it is essentially, you have the family of beers, the pale ale, the IPA, the double IPA, then the barley wine. So the barley wine was in essence like a triple IPA, but what they've done with triple and quadruples these days is they've taken the double IPA hop to malt ratio and then just put more malt in, so made something a little bit different. But the barley wine, these four beers that I mentioned a minute ago, are all linked together through their hop to malt ratios. And for me, this one, it's kind of interesting. I've always felt there's two different kinds of barley wines. There are the old school English ones, which are a little bit more roasty and toasty, and the fruits are a bit drier, whereas you've got the American ones that are a bit sweeter, more oily, and the fruits generally speaking are a bit more oily. So this one, to me, it smells a little bit, it has got a few English elements to it, there's some of the dryness in there, but it's really more of an American barley wine, this one, just on the aroma. We'll see if that transpires in the actual flavour right enough. But, yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one is lovely. On the hoppy side of things, you've got a little bit of On the hoppy side of things, you can smell there's a little bit of the green character still there. There's a wee bit of earthiness, a nice little bit of floral note, and also a wee touch of a grassy sort of thing. Yeah, but as always, with barley wines, this one I think is a year or two old. I really couldn't tell you how old this can is, but I think it's at least a year, potentially a little bit more. Some of the hoppy character has dropped out of this one, definitely. So you can smell that the floral and grassy notes that are there are a little bit older, but they still work. On the fruity side of things, this one, the fruity side of things with this beer, it's got like a little bit of a kind of, it has got a little bit of a, it has got a little bit of a sharper kind of raisiny note to it. It also has a little bit of, you have got more of these kind of plummy notes, and you've got a bit of the drier prune and stuff in there, definitely figs as well. And some sharp, there's a bit of blackcurrant and blackberry as well. These are all typical things that you'll find in a barley wine and generally speaking, a big brown sugary beer like this one. But the aroma in this it's just absolutely lovely. As I always say, take a wee bit of time just to ponder over the aroma of the beer that you're going to try before you get stuck in, because you're always going to find something really interesting, I think. But yeah, I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, like I said, this one is simply called Barley Wine. The space in the middle, 14% ABV. I think it's going to be an American style barley wine from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri in Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this beautiful smelling beer. Slange, skål, cheers. That's pretty damn good, I have to say. Yeah, lovely stuff. Ooh. Yeah, this is interesting. It's a big boozy beast, but I mean at 14%, you kind of expect that, to be honest with you. But it's another really, really nicely done beer, and that's what I have to say about Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. These guys are doing some really, really good stuff, and you can see why this is a brewery that has had a lot of praise over the last little while. I actually have a can of their Old Ale to have a look at, and if I remember correctly, the first beer I tried from these guys was it was a coffee stout. It was a bit stronger, but not overly strong. And then we had the Hjortron, the Cloudberry sour beer that I talked about earlier, and we also had the Coupage, which was one of the ones they released through Systembolaget a little bit after the Hjortron. So yeah, we've not had a barley wine from them before, but this is damn good. So it's a massive thumbs up from me. It gives you everything you want. The big oily fruity notes, the kind of brown sugary malty sort of things, and then yeah, you've also got a little bit of the hoppy character as well. So yeah, the way this goes together is really, really nice. Yeah, this is good. This is damn good. So let's just try and break this down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Middle third of your palate then. Backbone of the beer. It has a little bit of an almost woody nature to it. You've got a little bit of an almost woody dryness in there, and a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty character as well. On top of that, you have the kind of cakey notes that I was talking about. I would say that this beer, it kind of is given similar characteristics with compared to what I expected from it, from the aroma. So that's definitely fair to say. On top of that, you've got the woody note, the little bit of bread crust, and then you have a little touch just within the kind of woody character. I think there's a wee bit of vanilla comes out into the aftertaste with this one, so that's toward the front of that middle third of your palate. But then further forward from that, you have you do get the little bit of nuttiness as well. But then, yeah, like I say, above the kind of bread crusty layer, you have the kind of cakey note to this one. So it's like a highly caramelised, kind of spongy type character that comes out of this one. So yeah, I think the cakey notes that you get out of this are really nice. Like it's like just a really highly caramelised, like brandy soaked bread or something like that. These are the kind of notes that you're getting out of this one. Above that though, there is like a sort of sweeter, almost like slightly caramelised rye bready note or something like that. So you've got this mix of cakey bready note sitting in the beer, and within the bread you get a little touch of the nuttiness that I was talking about too. So that comes out the further into the aftertaste. Above all of that, you have the you have a little bit more of a kind of leathery brown sugary character. And as I said earlier, the longer you boil the wort in a beer, the more the sugars caramelise, and you certainly get this big leathery brown sugary note sitting above all the bready character. But above you have quite a few layers of different brown sugars and things like that as well. So the brown sugary notes in this one, they're quite interesting. There's a few different things going on. So you've got the leathery brown sugar. Now, if you go to the dead centre of your palate, you can feel that there's the really concentrated treacle molasses, and that's the booze, that's the alcohol of the beer. But as you move further out from that dead centre, you can feel it kind of mellows out a little bit. You've got a sweeter kind of caramelly note with this one. So yeah, you've got that sweeter caramelly kind of thing, and then as you push further out, there's a little bit of butterscotch. Yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of butterscotchy. Yeah, a little bit of a butterscotchy, butter candy sort of thing. A little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well. That comes out into the aftertaste. But yeah, treacle molasses, a sweeter caramel, the McVitie's digestive biscuit, and then underneath that you've got a little bit more of the kind of leathery, kind of brown sugary sort of note coming out of this beer, which is lovely, I have to say. Yeah, this is one of these beers where it gives you everything that you'd expect of the style, but it's just really, really nicely done. So yeah, love it, absolutely love this one. I think that covers the middle third of the palate. Then let's have a little look at the back third of the palate. The border region between middle and back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of sort of bready build up in there. It's like a sweet caramelly, brandy soaked bready sort of thing like we talked about earlier. But the base of that back third of the palate, you've got a similar layer there. You've got the kind of drier woody notes, you've got the bread crust, and then above that, above the bread crust, you have the a little bit of a kind of cake. You have a little bit of a more sort of cakey. You have a little bit of a more kind of cakey. As I say, that sort of it's a bit more like a kind of sponge cake, to be honest. In the back the back third of the palate, you can feel it's got a little bit of a spongy kind of brown sugary sort of thing to it, and then above that you get a little bit more of a kind of lighter brown bready kind of character out of this one. So yeah, it's really interesting there. And then above everything else, you start to get the more yeasty esters coming out of the beer. So, in the yeasty ester side of things, for me, the beer, you do almost get a little touch. It's got a little bit of a kind of spice. Above all of that, it has a little touch of like a kind of spicy brown bread to it. So yeah, a little bit of a kind of spicy brown bread in there. You have a wee bit of a, above all of that, you've got a little bit of honeycomb in there, a little bit of a woody, slightly spicy, farmhousey type bread, but definitely on the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is that little touch taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice. On the hoppy side of things, then, the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there, for sure. And the earthiness is a little bit dry, actually. It kind of spreads further forward, and there's a wee touch of herbal character there. But as you move further forward toward the front corners of your palate, there's a little bit of a more kind of floral, aromatic quality coming out there. So yeah, you get more of that kind of floral aromaticity to it, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a wee bit lighter and more grassy. So yeah, it's good that way. So yeah, a lovely little bit of a more kind of grassy note to this one. As I say, the hoppy character has kind of dropped out of this beer quite a bit. Well, it's a barley wine first off, and it's been in the can for a wee while, but you do still get a little bit of a grassy, zesty sort of thing and a wee floral character behind it. But on the front third of your palate, then, with the fruity side of the beer, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So in that border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit of a kind of brown bready build up in there, and it feels like a little bit more of a kind of rye bready, grainy sort of thing. And the base of that front third of your palate, the wood is in there, and the wood feels a little bit drier. You've also got a little bit more of a kind of grainy bread crusty type note in there, and then above that you get the nice oily bubbles where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, the fruity side of things is really nice in this one. So when you take the beer in, you get a little bit of a kind of raisiny sharpness in there. Underneath that, you have a little bit more of a kind of juicy plum and then an oily prune. And at the very back of that front third of your palate in the base, there's a little bit of a kind of sort of sultana, dry white green grapey sort of thing. And as you move further forward into the middle of the front third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit more of a kind of wet figgy sort of thing. And then the base of the front half of that front third of your palate is more kind of, you've got a black curranty and blackberry note sitting above that. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is it's really quite nice. So yeah, the black curranty base, oily blackberry notes out of this one. And yeah, that kind of lingers into the after. I think you get more and more of the blackberry. The fruity notes you get out of this beer, they're a kind of mix of English and American barley wine. The sort of more dry, sultana-y type notes that you're getting out of this one it's a little bit more English, I would say, but the red fruits are a wee bit more American. I'd be very curious to know what the hop profile on this one is, if it's a little bit of English Bramling's Cross or a bit of Northern Brewer from Germany, or something from the States, because Chinook and Cascade, if you use Chinook and Cascade in an American barley wine, it can always work very, very well. So yeah, I think it's the hop bill in this one is probably something like that, actually. But as I say, the fruity side of this beer is really, really nice, and for me, just a lovely, lovely, big, oily barley wine. Yeah, so in terms of the flavour, I think that's everything we really need to say. Let's have a wee look at the mouthfeel with this one and see what it's all about. So, mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer, it's definitely full bodied, and it's kind of in the mid-range of full bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth in this one. It's got more of an oily and slick mouthfeel to it, but it gives you a wee bit of dryness the further into the aftertaste you go, definitely. Yeah, wee bit of more kind of oily dryness to this one, which I really do like actually. But on top of that, I would say, yeah, the carbonation is smooth, a little bit of oily slightness, and a wee bit of dryness the further into the aftertaste you go. In terms of IBUs, it's a little bit hard to pick out with this one, because you get a wee bit of dryness from the booziness, you get a little touch of dryness from the boozy side of the beer. You've also got a little bit of a you have a little bit of a, in terms of the IBUs and the dryness and stuff, I do wonder if this beer's maybe got about 40-ish IBUs to it, something like that. But as I say, it's a bit easy to blend up the bitterness and the dryness and stuff like that in this one. There is a wee bit of bite from the boozy character too. But yeah, the malt base, as I said, a smoothness underneath, a bit of dryness, lots of big oily, kind of highly caramelised sweetness. And yeah, the nice kind of hoppy characters above that, and then the big oily fruity notes, a mix of dry fruit and a more oily red fruity character. But yeah, as I say, it's a beautiful, beautiful barley wine, this one. And I think I made a very good choice to buy this. So I need to try a few more of the kind of high alcohol, malty sort of things from Mariatorgets. But I'd love to see these guys have a go at like a Doppelbock and a Scotch ale. That would be quite interesting to see. But yeah, I think that's everything that we really need to say about this particular beer. So I think we should leave it at that. This was the barley wine, 14% ABV from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri in Stockholm, and I'm really glad that I just decided to pick up a can of this and try it. So yeah, do that for yourself and see what you think. You won't be disappointed with this one if you love a good barley wine. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But until then, Slàinte, Skål, cheers. Check out Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri, check out my social media, check out theirs. And I'll see you guys in the next review.